Welcome everyone on today's webinar, organized by Newired. We have two partners on this webinar, Tim Stroebele from Siemens and Hartmut Schäfer from Reqonsult. And we met together to tell you something about how to actually empower Polarion ALM key values and strength via empowering the actual users. On today's webinar, we will have four main topics presented. So I'll start first. My name is Jiri Walek. I'm the Vice President of Product Management at Newired. I will give you a little bit of introduction, let's say from our organizer point of view, let's see why we are here. But then it'll be especially Tim Stroebele from Siemens who will brought to the picture the Siemens context. So what's the reality today with let's say, delivering the key Polarion capabilities to the actual users. And then we'll actually have a real practical part coming from our partner, Reqonsult, that will actually demonstrate some of the great achievements they have delivered to the market in the last couple of months or 1 year. And I will wrap up at the end, just diving a little bit deeper into our solution capabilities if time allows us. As I said, it will be roughly 40 minutes. So let's just dive into it. So first, Newired, we are organizing this webinar because our mission is actually to help people to close or at least reduce the distance or the gap between technology, between the software and us, people using the actual software. And if you would ask us, why do we partner with Siemens? Why do we partner with Reqonsult? It's the reality is that we, but it's not only we, but also, let's see, the analysts see that very often the so-called digital transformations fail. So when you are rolling out a technology, the fail means that you are not achieving the projected ROI or the values as you envisioned in the initial phase. And often if you ask yourself, what does it really mean to the end user? Why is it actually happening? You will see something that you see on this screen, which is so-called learning curve. That if there is a new technology, we need to learn it. The people forget, not deep people, we all forget what we learned in a couple of weeks. So we need to be retrained. But then even worse, the change is coming. So something changes in the application, in the process, then comes the frustration. And exactly to cover that, we brought to the market a solution that is called Newired Journeys that brings kind of the interactive step-by-step guidance to any web application. And before I will let actually Tim to speak into it, I would like to give you just really a short glimpse about what do we call an interactive step-by-step guidance on top of any application. And to do so, because we are all somehow connected here to the Polarion business, I would like to show it on top of Polarion interface. So what I've loaded here is a Polarion demo server, and I can see here something that you probably don't have on your Polarion installation. I see this, what we call an overlay. And in this overlay, I can deploy some kind of the guides that interactively guide me through some of the procedures. It could help me to actually understand what is on the screen, so I can just really learn the different components. But more importantly, I can actually later see, and this is what we will let's see, get from Hartmut, that it's not just about explaining what you see on the screen, but it can really guide you step by step through a particular procedure. So that's what we call an interactive layer on top of any web application. But before we'll actually dive deep into our solution, into how it looks from the end user perspective, let's say invite Tim on the stage to tell us from the Siemens point of view why this kind of is why this is important, how he sees let's say the reality from the software vendor point of view. So I will make Tim a presenter. Welcome, Tim, on on a stage. 1 second. And here you go.
Yeah, thank you, Jiri. Yeah, so welcome. My name is Tim. This is my home office. I'm glad to be here today with you guys. And yeah, I would like to speak a bit about the ALM rollout journey to give you some context around this. And if you think about, let's imagine you heard a song in the radio and you wanna learn how to play it. So you go to the shop and you buy yourself a guitar and you start learning it. So you try to understand the chords. You try to understand how to pluck the strings and how to move your fingers in the right sequence. That's really hard. And after a while, you find out it really takes some time to get you there until you can play that song, until it sounds like it sounded in the radio. So actually, it needs a lot of practice, a lot of improvements to finally get there. But at some point in the journey, you will reach that point and you suddenly play that song, and this is one of these nice, great moments when you're really happy that you achieved something. And these precious moments, they appear everywhere in life, actually. If it's in the job, if it's in sports, in education, or even in the family, if you try to learn or educate your kids how to do a specific equation or formula in math, and it feels so good if you suddenly see that your kid understands the formula. If you're a parent, you know what I mean. So, but to get there is really, it is a journey. And as learning how to play the guitar, it's the same when you roll out a solution like Polarion ALM. So you will never be the perfect musician at the beginning. So you will start with a very simple song and improve it over time. So you start with a basic song, and then maybe you add some chords, maybe you add some special bridge, and it gets to sound better and better. And there will be a point in your rollout when you suddenly see that the tool or the tool is not so prominent anymore. It goes more and more in the background and allows you really to do what you actually plan to do with the system, supports your process. And that's actually the point when really the real improvement journey starts. So you will not stop there. You will still keep improving. And sometimes these improvements or these improvements are enforced to you. Maybe, I mean, if you have played an instrument, you may remember these times when your parents asked you to play a specific song on Christmas. Well, you better practice. You better make it good. So there is always something new to learn, something to improve, to get better, to be faster, to have a better quality in what you do. But knowing this, I mean, this also means that the solution in which you implement your ALM must be flexible enough. It must allow that agile way of working, that agile thinking. It must embrace changes. And actually, if you're already familiar with Polarion, you know that that's I think one of the core features inside Polarion that is very easy on changes. So if you start rolling out, and it's similar to playing an instrument. So when I play this tune and I can immediately hear, is it correct or is it wrong? And I can adjust my setting in my guitar. I can change while I'll do that. And that's very important, especially in early stages of your rollout process. So you will not be so formal in these initial stages. So you will start changing something, you get the feedback, and then you adjust. And the great thing I think about Polarion is that you can really do it online, do the change, see how it is. I mean, just imagine you would hear the note that you play a minute later because you need to deploy it first. I mean, until you get that result, there is so much time in the middle. Maybe I've played already 10, 20, 50 new notes, and I don't remember what was the reason. So this immediate feedback is really essential. But when you start playing a song, rolling out your process, there will be a lot of changes, wishes, issues. And so it's necessary that you track them. Maybe somebody says, the bridge, I don't like the bridge so much. And also you made here a little mistake in the refrain. And then you can decide, well, let's keep the bridge aside for a while, but focus on the refrain and improve it. And when you use Polarion also to track your rollout, you will have this list of issues and changes. And when you release your new, let's say your first song, you will have that issue list as part of it. And you can, when everybody who downloads or uses that new project template that you've created has access to that list, and you can manage then your template, your process in a very professional way. So you really know what's inside and what's not inside. Actually, we do not only speak about global configuration in a rollout, because there is always this special case. Every one of us knows these special cases. So maybe you want to play a bit jazzy style or have it more in a country-like feeling. So there will be these special projects who have the need for special configuration. And I think that's one of the other great things in Polarion, that you can give enough rights to the projects that they can configure their project, let's say their requirements workflow, for the same requirement in a different way, because it's needed for that project. And if we have a look over the lady here, I think she doesn't look so, let's say, so convinced from his interpretation of the song. And actually, sometimes it's also good to have the possibility to roll something back. Maybe she shouldn't have chosen the jazz style for this evening outside. And that's also something which is, I think, very important when you need this aggressive, agile way of rolling something out. Again, this is important, especially in the early stages of your rollout. You will make mistakes. So it's important that you can roll back to a previous version of your configuration. And actually, as Polarion stores all the configuration in a version control system, you can always roll it back and take the other song out of the box and maybe better play the standard song for this location. So I think with Polarion, you have a very strong platform which supports that flexibility to embed your own process in the system. But what does it mean then to the end user? I mean, the end user will typically see the process that you've implemented. Much of it is hidden. It's kind of the way how you have configured it. So what you will see probably is something like workflows inside the different objects that you have in Polarion. Here we can see a work item. And so I can choose different actions here in this change request. And there will be some required fields. You can see the priority has a required field. And that's already, let's say, a challenge when you configure your process inside the system. How much of this should be enforced? So with enforced, do I mean required fields that you want the user to add? It's initially maybe a good idea, but let's imagine you create a defect and the workflow of the defect requires that you enter title, description, and the release number. And so the guy who needs to create a defect enters the title, spends a lot of time, he writes the description, and then he finds out he doesn't have a release number. Now, if your process doesn't allow him to save the data because of your process constraints, he will not do this so often because maybe he has not access to the release number now. So it's also important when you build your processes that you allow, especially at the beginning, a bit more flexibility and try always to keep the user in a state that he can store his data so that he doesn't lose it because of the workflow configuration that you've chosen. On these, let's call it on these microprocesses, there is also something, I think one of the most underestimated features in Polarion, which are the reporting pages. Maybe it's because of the name. Reporting page indicates that it has something to do with reports, which is true in a sense, but you can also use them as a process guidance. So here you can see a page where on the top area here, there is a bunch of input documents. which I need for my next process step. And at the bottom area here, there is an output that should be produced. And then on the top here on this page in the example, there are a bunch of actions that I can use and click on. And so I can focus the user here on a specific use case and get him started, I think, very easily. And if you like, you can add here on the right side a little description that I can read as a user. So you can also give context to the end user. So what is meant by this process? What is required? You can also link to your process pages so that you get more information, what you should do, what is expected from you. Now, still, I think there is still a great potential that tools like all the digital adoption platforms can bring here into the game. Because even if you have created the workflow and you have created the landing pages, what these platforms bring in is context. So for example, we have chosen the Newired solution to our evaluation server. And the great thing is that when somebody enters the evaluation project, you can immediately publish or show such a window. Hey, welcome. I see you're the first time here. So where do you want to go next? And then you can guide him through the process. So I think this is a nice add-on to drive users, especially when they are not so often using the system, maybe just once or twice a week. Then you can just click on it, and then you have the information that you need for your next process step. But I guess that's also the point where I would like to hand over to Hartmut, who will probably give you more insight how this actually works.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for this part. Yes, I'll make Hartmut the presenter. Let's see, my takeover from that part is that, let's say, I would fully agree that the flexibility of Polarion is really, let's say, great value, and the full potential of Polarion can be actually derived from the platform only when you adjust it to your particular workflows and needs. And because of that, the end customer should not be actually guided that much on the tool, but more on the actual implementation of the processes. So it's not about how do I create a work item, but more about how do I send a document for approval in my actual context. And I'm sure that Hartmut, from his practical perspective, will be able to demonstrate us some of these real world scenarios, how he is actually helping customers to roll out Polarion, how to benefit from the Polarion more. So welcome to the stage, Hartmut. You should be the presenter.
Thank you, Jiri. I hope you can hear me. So yeah, this is me, just a more statical picture of me, not the live like Tim had. I'm from the company Reqonsult in Germany, and we're since many years Polarion consultants. We are doing rollouts since more than 10 years in all industries, and we are a certified service partner from Siemens for Polarion, and we are doing all services around Polarion. And a bit more than a year ago, we came over Newired and found that this would be a perfect fit for Polarion, and Newired itself liked it as a perfect fit to Polarion. As we often experience when we are doing rollouts or customizations of Polarion with any customer, that it needs a lot of training for a lot of users, and it's often very difficult to schedule the training right in time. You know, usually you plan to do the training exactly before a person needs to do a certain task in Polarion, or perform the process after the change in its new shape. And this is often not possible. So there is 1 or 2 weeks or even a month or two between training and then the first practice in the system itself. And this generates a lot of support calls and a lot of additional training efforts, which can be avoided by using Newired. As you can, I mean, Polarion has a good help. So if you have a question concerning any feature in Polarion, you can go to the help. That is the easy part. But if you have now a change process, for example, and need to think of where do I have to add an approval to a work item? Where do I have to click to create a new work item? Or where do I have to paste my newly created document inside the system? So these are often questions that only can be answered by support staff or by a colleague. And this often hampers person to use the tool. So what you achieve with Newired, you get a high tool acceptance and a high process acceptance. And with that, you get high quality of your data in the system. So you can go relaxed into your next audit without any problem, which is besides that not always the case. But so far, concerning the theories, I will show you now a sample in Polarion itself. This is too small, so I guess you can see almost nothing. Now it's better. Okay, so I see two certain cases for using Polarion. First is doing some basic training, like is the first journey I want to show to you. This is simply a Polarion introduction. It welcomes you, and then you say next, and they say here is your user account, and it shows who you are. And here's the project context, giving simply some explanations to the search field, for example, that you have the gear wheel up here, and then finally you end the journey, and you even can get give it feedback on the journey. So this is like a kind of a refreshment of the training you've got. This is possibly even replaces the training to some extent. And this is also some things you usually get from a lot of tools. Meanwhile, when you newly installed it, you get all these boxes and say, this is new, and this is new, and this is new. But what is great with Newired, you have this tiny triangle down here to the bottom, and you can, if you come back to the system a few weeks later and say, forget about it, you simply can click on it. There's no need to get the manual, think of a wiki, where has it been, where is the URL, go through your emails to find it, don't find it, go to a colleague, ask him, and I said, well, I don't know, I don't use this tool too often. And finally you are frustrated and you try to reach the support. And the support is bothered because they always need to answer the stupid questions which are contained in the training, and they maintain it in the wiki, but nobody looks at it. That's quite often the situation. And here you can simply get it, go through it again, and if you found a point you have forgotten about, then you also can end the journey, and that's it. So you don't have to do this journey to the end. So this is the one aspect, and the other aspect, what also causes a lot of support calls, is imagine you are Robert Project. It's this tiny picture here. He's the project manager, and he just need to go to the tool once per release, just to approve some work items. And for that, he gets an email with a link to the document he needs to approve. And that's basically it. Then he starts here and says, oh, yeah, but I've forgotten, where is the panel? So he goes, but what he still remember here down is the help and approve work item in the document. That's exactly what I want to do. So he clicks at it and said, open document menu. Oh yes, I remember, that was it. And then, oh yeah, here are the approvals. Great. So it's open, then I get some explanation what I can do here, that I can filter the document, and finally click on next, select work item to approve. Okay, so I will scroll down as described here, and I found that blue marked work item, click on it and say, yes, I have one, next. So then this is another feature of this here is another feature of Newired. It's called the tips. That's a way to store process information right in the UI of the tool. So you can hover over it and you see these are my requirements approval criteria. So there's no need to look for the cheat sheet, what to think about. I always have it right there in the tool, and it's exactly these criteria you defined for your reviews. So, okay, I have the review criteria, great. Then I can approve. I need to click at this one and approve and this, and oh yes, don't forget to leave a comment if you disapprove. Perfect. Oh yes, and finally at the end I have this to save that document, and that's the end of the journey. So I remember it all. I can approve now, and the best thing is this journey is not static. It is context sensitive. So assume you have opened this here. So what you've seen with or let us say even I had opened this here, or the document properties, for example, and then the journey shows me again. So approve. So it says to me, open the document menu, go to approval. And then now that was not necessary, the once before, select my approval, because it has been on my approvals. So now I click at this and then I get the explanation I've seen before. So I can stop this journey right here for this demonstration. So you can create this journey really context sensitive. And even if you have it right opened like this and need to get some further explanation, forget something, you can go on this approve requirements in the document and you simply get this explanation. There's no open this menu as it's already opened. And this is really great. So you don't bother your users, you direct them through the tool to your process. And this really helps to avoid support calls and frustration of persons not regularly using this tool. And usually it saves a lot of time, not just for calling the colleague, not just for calling the support, but if you don't feel comfortable with the tool, if you don't remember, and it's always to search for information, the possibility to make mistakes, this hampers you to take this task and do the approval in that case. And this wastes a lot of time in a project you usually don't see. People try to avoid doing these tasks because they are not comfortable with it. And this can always be, this time can be saved with Newired. That's how simple it is, how simple it could be. So, and that's from me.
Thank you.
And I will hand over to Jiri again.
Thank you for this practical view from the, let's say, from the field, how the journeys can actually help. And what we have not actually covered at all yet is how do we create those journeys? How do we actually, what's the process of creating it? Is this something that I need to code? Is this something that you need to ask Hartmut to create? And let's just spend 5 minutes on that topic. So as we have heard from Tim, and partially also from Hartmut, you need to be able to respond to a change. And this ability to respond to change has motivated us to think about, to create something easy and simple, to not just create these step-by-step tutorials, but also to maintain them. And what we have as a solution for it is a product that we call Newired Editor. Newired Editor is a desktop application that looks like a browser. You see, this is my Polarion running in it, but it's not exactly the browser. I can still run the journeys that we have seen before on the server, but more importantly, I can actually create them. And creating process is truly simple. So let's just create one journey really quickly. So usually you start a journey with some intro. You want to tell people what they will learn and why they should continue. And then you are giving them these step-by-step instructions. So you can see I visually just place my callouts on the screen and I tell the user what to do. He should click here. So let's click here. The second step was, for example, to create, I don't know, a work package. Would be to click here on this plus symbol. So I'll select this transition here. Then another one should be to click here on the work package. Let's put it here on the right, and let's change that into URL change transition. So when should we go to the next step? And it doesn't load from some perspective. This is some kind of the Polarion issue, but let's go back to our, so I click work items, I click plus, I click work package, so I'm here, and I should add here's like type summary. So you see that in few clicks, I actually create some of these callouts, and that's it. Because now I can just preview it here, because this editor is a staging environment where I actually that helps me to actually create these guides without any authoring skills. Of course, I can do more. I can define on which URLs they actually run, etc. So I can control the conditions. That some works only in the agile project, something works only in the waterfall project. So I need to connect my journeys into the process, but then I can really just create a journey like that guides me through the process. So now I'm just testing it, that it works as expected, and you see it works. So that's what we call an easy and simple way to help your users to feel more comfortable with the system and to feel empowered to go through any standard operating procedure. And if you would go back into the slides, let me just recap some of the key unique functional characteristics. So first, simplicity to use and constant robustness. I told you already about our commitment to make things simple, that it must be that easy that you graphically create the content. But equally important, security and privacy. You can decide, like with Polarion, if you want to have all the data on your premises or in our cloud. We also have an analytical module that helps you collect the information, how the people are actually using the journeys. But this is optional. If you don't want to collect this information, you can disable it. But anyway, if you collect this analytical data, they are strictly non-personal. So we, let's say, focus a lot on the aspect of security and privacy. Content versioning. We have customers that are standard Polarion customers coming from the regulated industries, medical, aerospace, automotive, where the wrong use of Polarion may have a potential functional safety impact. Because of that, all the content that there is in Newired is actually versioned, and you can export it to MS Word, approve in your document management system, and ensure that all those procedures are safely processed. So I'm creating the guide in an editor, but to make it go live, to go through the publishing procedure, you need to follow simple but robust workflows that make sure that all the content is reviewed and approved before it goes live. Last but not least, 2 more points: multi-application support. So, you know, you don't want to get your users being trained on features. You want them to be trained on the procedures, on the workflows. But the workflows may span over multiple applications. You know how Siemens is focusing on so-called ALM PLM integration. I may start to create a change request in Team Center, then I need to go to Polarion and log the software change request, and then I need to go to Team Center back to trigger the workflow. We let you create a guide that actually goes through multiple applications. Also, you know that Polarion runs only in the single language, which is English, but you may have colleagues that would welcome if these guides, if these tutorials will be actually speaking in their preferred language. And we do it in a pretty cool way that you don't need your translation department to use Newired. You can actually create all these guides in Newired, export the data in the industry standard translation format called XLIF, give it to your translation department or give it to your freelancer that needs to translate it. They translate it, they send you the data back, you import the content into Newired, and from this moment, all these guides will speak a different language. On top of that, we want to highlight that everything is quite transparent from also business perspective. You can just go online and start testing our free editor. You can ask for a proof of concept, but also from the commercial perspective, it's quite straightforward. It's a commercial solution, of course, but the process of creating the guides is free. The business model is that you pay per user. So the more users needs to be trained, the more you pay. There is an online calculator on the website. But what we have seen so far, what needs to be, let's say, loud and clear. One Polarion customer that Hartmut was helping to succeed, we run a survey, internal survey, among roughly a couple of hundreds users that are using the system for more than a year. And what we have collected as a feedback, that each and everyone, also the people that are using it for more than a year already, in average, they save at least 15 minutes a week. So this is 1 hour a month. So if nothing, this is, let's say, the ROI factor among all the people, but the time saved is not the only benefit. What we have also measured is the actual increased satisfaction and less of the frustration. So that's what we wanted to speak about today. Just to recap, we have the solution for helping people to succeed with the complex technologies like Polarion, but not necessarily only Polarion, because Newired can connect to any web application like Team Center, but also like a Workday, like Salesforce. We focus on making the process to create the journeys really simple, but also robust. What robustness means, if there is a new version of Polarion, your journeys will stay working. That's what we call a robustness, and that's a huge commitment for us. Security and privacy with all the different installation options. We understand your challenges regarding the, let's say, regulatory processes also that connects to the guidance. It's not just about helping with a tool, but helping with the standard operating procedures. That's why we cover the multi-application layout, multi-language, in case you need, let's say, the guides to speak different languages. That's what we have prepared for you today. Thank you, Tim, very much for your participation here and helping us to, let's say, see the context that we are actually covering. Thank you, Hartmut, for also bringing us really practical view on what your customers, what Polarion clients actually need. And thank you everyone for the participation. This webinar was recorded. We will share the recording with you. And if you have any questions, please let us know by email. We can schedule a one-on-one session or just follow up via email. Thank you very much.